Okay, Michelle.
Yes, well,
So we're talking about Jimmie Retha Brown. She was 16 years old, and August 9th, 1977, in El Paso, Texas, she was taken away and was found not alive August 15th. Some of the things I read about this case is that the Ronald Palpio, is that right?
Papa Leo.
Yeah. He apparently gave her a coat, according to his own account. And I was just wondering, did they ever find the coat?
Yeah, it was with her remains.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that opens up a whole thing. Now, tell me about Jimmie Retha Brown in your own words, like what happened and everything. I want to hear what your own words are.
Well, she's my mother's younger sister, and she was 16, and my grandmother was born and raised in El Paso, and she raised all her children there. And when Jimmie was 16, she remarried and moved to San Diego. And my Aunt Jimmie had braces on, and she needed to go back and have them tightened in El Paso, and my grandmother allowed her some time to stay there because I had another aunt that lived there that was older, and so she could spend the summer with her friends from Andres High School. And so I guess she went back, and she didn't like my other aunt's, I was 3, but she didn't like my aunt's curfew rules, and so she just kind of started staying with her friend, and they hung out at the McDonald's on Dyer Street. That was, I guess, the big thing to do back then. And so if they weren't in a certain time, they couldn't get in. Well, this particular day, she got her braces tightened, and her friend said that she was hurting from her mouth was hurting, and she wanted to lay down that night. And apparently, from what I get from the people that I've talked to, Ronald Papaleo at the time was going by Ronald Allen. For whatever reason he was given that name, I've learned that was his stepdad's name. That was never even a legal name for him. He was hanging out with this crowd of 16 and 18-year-olds, and they didn't even know really his true age, but he was actually older than them. He was in his 20s, and he was married, and he had a pregnant wife. And so he hung out in a van around the same places like the McDonald's and Kmart and Taco Bell, I think it is, and the Jack in the Box on Dyer Street. Well, that's where my aunt was at that particular time. That night was at the Jack in the Box, and they knew Ronald from the crowd, but they didn't really know him outside the crowd. So when he heard my aunt saying that she needed to lay down, she was hurting, he offered her a ride, and he told her that she could go stay all night in his trailer, his mobile home, because his wife was in the hospital giving birth to his child, and he would be at the hospital with his wife. So my aunt decided to take that ride with him, and a couple of other friends in the crowd told her, it's okay, he's a good guy. And so she was supposed to be going to his trailer, staying the night, and he told her best friend he would have her return back to the McDonald's at 8 o'clock the next morning. Well, my aunt went with him, and she was never seen alive again, and he disappeared for days. I don't know exactly how many days, but he didn't even go to the hospital to see his daughter when she was born. And when he did come back, her friends started going up to him and asking him, where is Jimmie? They had went to the El Paso Police Department on August 11th and reported her missing. And he said, oh, well, she, became belligerent and demanded to be let out of the van. So I stopped at the intersection of Dyer and Fred Wilson, and I let her out. But, hey, I gave her my coat because the rainstorm was coming. And they're like, well, that don't make no sense. Nobody's seen or heard from her. And then on the 15th, a gentleman that rode a piece of equipment like a road crew worker, is my understanding. He set up high on the equipment. He spotted my aunt's body, drove out on the O'Hara 404, the Desert Road. And it's like right at, almost at Anthony, New Mexico, but where she was found was actually Donna Ana County in Las Cruces. So that put her missing in El Paso, and that put her found murdered and New Mexico, so they crossed jurisdictions.
Now,
well, I have the police reports. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
I have the police reports. I requested them, and it was supposed to be from 77 to current, but they only sent me 06 to the current, and they just kind of throw stuff in there. But I actually have the first sheets that was filled out by, I'm not certain on that. He was either a sheriff or something, Henry Diaz. He was the first one that investigated my aunt's case. And he brought Ronald Papaleo in and questioned him. And then I have all this on paper. Polygraph, they gave him a polygraph, and the analyst that did the polygraph said he was deceptive in every one of his answers on the questions on pertaining to my aunt's murder. The jacket that he says he gave her was found with her remains. She had twine wrapped around her neck 4 times. She was strangled so bad that it crushed her larynx, and then she had that same twine wrapped around her ankles. Well, a piece of that twine, to my understanding, and I've not confirmed that fully, but it is in the only piece of evidence they have left in her case. A 5-inch piece of twine was found on his workstation, is what I'm getting at his job at, I think it was Beaumont or something, lumber company there in El Paso. And, and then they let him go. But Henry Diaz, I also have that sheet where he brought him in to charge him with first-degree murder. And he presented all that polygraph and stuff to the district attorney at that time, and they said no, they would not authorize it.
Well, here's the thing. Is that Ronald guy still alive?
Yes, he's in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
First of all, the coat was on her, and he was the last person to see her. So, and then the twine thing is another thing that adds to evidence. And this seems like a case where they should have just charged him, and they didn't for some reason.
Well, what I'm told by the sheriff, that's the sheriff there now, Donna Anna, Kim Stewart, she told me over a phone conversation that back in the 70s, that just because they were a district attorney didn't mean that they had any experience in it, that a lot of times they were just put in there by family members or because someone recommended them. That could have been the case. I don't know, but they had their evidence there, and they had several witnesses that was with her that night that seen her get in the van with him, knew that he was the last person. I don't understand it neither. And now this is what I'm so angry about, because I'm looking into this, and the last time it was looked at was 2020 from my documentation I got from them. But the FBI picked her case up in 77 and took it and reviewed it and returned the evidence back to Donna Anna on January 3rd, 78. And Donna Anna says, oh, well, we can't, tell the investigators, we don't have any evidence. So when I guess the one investigator dug into it, he got an answer back from them. Oh, well, it got mixed up with another homicide evidence, and it was destroyed.
Wow. Oh, man. They just totally messed this case up.
Sir, I'm just going to say, I even went and talked to, or wouldn't go, I called and talked to the governor's office, and that's the only reason why the sheriff called me back, because the governor got it under her tail end, and I guess she felt she needed to or had to, but it's just horrible because they act like that, it's matter of fact, she's labeled under a dump. That's what they label these people that die and get dumped out there on that road on O'Hara. They're under a dump when they're unsolved.
That's totally inhumane, the way they characterize it.
Yeah, it is. And this Ronald guy, he's and I'm just only telling you what I know. I won't say anything I don't know. He is listed as the only person of interest in her case. He is listed as a suspect, and he was never officially charged, but never cleared neither. And he has bounced around. I've found where he has lived, just from the police report and what I've looked into. He's lived in North Carolina, Florida, Virginia Beach, Washington. He's just moved around, and one of the investigators even says in one of the reports, that he knows he's doing that, dodging law enforcement.
Yeah. And some of the research I was doing, there's a guy named Ricardo Gonzalez who claimed that he knew who killed her. Have you ever heard of him?
Yes, sir. I've got the police report on his the night he died, too. He was a friend of my aunt's, and he was from the crowd, and he's one of them that told my aunt that it was okay, that it was safe to ride with Ronald. And from my understanding from the other friends from then, he was eat up with guilt, and he blamed himself for her death for kiss. He did say that he knew who done it, and to my understanding, Ronald is the name that he gave. He only gave the first name at the time, and he told the police that name, and they said, oh, well, we looked into it, and it didn't go anywhere. Well, how can you say that when you already had that man in there and he failed a polygraph?
Wow. Oh, my gosh. Wow, this is a case that we know, allegedly, I have to say that for reasons. We know allegedly who did it, and they just didn't do anything.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
Wow. That's quite a story. And, when we're done with this, when we're done talking, I want you to send this to the investigators. So.
Okay.
Send this article
well, here's
to
the
the
thing
investigators.
When I talked to the sheriff out there at Donna Anna, she never said that it was open. She never said it was closed, but all she would tell me is, I'm sorry, it's unfortunate, these unsolved, these detectives don't want to take these cases unless they can solve it in 48 hours, this, that, and other. But now, when I contacted the district attorney's office and the governor, the district attorney messaged me or emailed me back and asked me who I spoke with, and I told him the sheriff, and he said, well, they informed me that they're working the case, so why are you asking me to look into it? No, I don't think they are.
Right. They threw away the evidence. They totally didn't do anything with this case of substance, and so they just want you to go away. Yeah,
and I've requested from them also the rest of her files. Whenever they didn't send all of them to me, I turned right back around and submitted a request for her files from 77 to 05 that they didn't send me. And I also requested to see a consent form that consented them to destroy her evidence. And I guarantee you they're not going to be able to produce that.
Right. Well, I'm going to write this article up, and we're going to have a story for you. So you can share it with the police and everybody so that they know what was done in this case.
Well, sir, the only thing I ask is, I just want anybody that knows about Jimmie's case or knows anything about her or interested in it, Donna Anna Sheriff's Department, Las Cruces, New Mexico, failed my aunt as a murdered victim, and they mishandled her case, and they neglected it.
They definitely did, and you have every reason to be mad at them over that.
And she deserves justice. My grandmother's 94 years old, her mother, and she's still alive, and she still calls the police department and asks them if they've got any leads, and they have just done my grandmother not right. They've neglected her too as her mother. They've not kept her informed. It's sad because what are you doing? Just writing her off as a dump, and it just doesn't matter because she's not your daughter.
Yeah. Meanwhile, somebody is just running around the United States acting like nothing happened.
Yeah, and sir, let me add this too, because I confirmed this, and I've got documentation of this also. When he left from El Paso, whenever he left, because he bounced back and forth, he had a daughter there that was born the same night my aunt was murdered. And then he went on later on to have two sons, and Riley, I think, or Fayetteville, North Carolina. One of them, I guess, had a troubled past, law and stuff, and he ended up dead. He got killed, is my understanding. And then he has a younger son, And, wouldn't you know that the youngest one, a few years back, was charged with assault by strangulation.
Wow. Apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
My exact words when I read that.
Well, I'm sorry for everything that happened in this case, and I'm going to get this article out, and we're gonna do everything we can to get this some attention.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it so much.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you, sir.
Bye.